The next type of graph that we want to look at is what is called a scatter plot. The scatter plot shows a relationship between two variables. So these are going to be two separate numbers that cannot be easily depicted by even a broken line. So these are things that could have the same value on the same x-axis or something along that line. And so when we draw a scatter plot, we're just going to put dots for each point. Biggest thing here is do not connect the dots. And I'm going to show you what happens if you try to connect the dots, okay? So on our scatter plot, we're going to create one for this table, number of absences and test grade. So I'm going to say test grade versus absences as the title. And when we do this, this is our X and this is our Y. Many of us have drawn graphs over the years, maybe in an algebra class or something like this. Think of these as ordered pairs, this being your X value, this being your Y value. Now remember, this is your X-axis and this is your Y-axis, and I'm going to try to draw that a little bit straighter. Now I can't draw straight lines. Oh, that's much better. Okay. So these are going to be our test grade. And these are going to be number of absences. Okay, so our number of absences are going to start at 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Our lowest test grade looks to be about 50. So I'm going to do what we called earlier this break that is considered a scale break. So I don't have to start at 0. Remember, right here is 0, 0. And I don't want to really start at 0, so I'm going to start at 50. And I'll go 55, 60, 65, 70, 75, 80, 85, 90. Ooh, let's try going back down and putting those a little bit closer together. So there's 55, 60, 65, 70, 75, 80, 85, 90, 95. And we'll do 100 up here. Okay, so if we have 0 absences, and I'm going to make these a different color so we can see them a little bit better. 0 absences, we had a grade of 98. So that's going to be here. We had a grade of a 90. And I guess I better go in and fill some of these grades in. So that's a 60, 70, 80, 90, and 100. Now we'll go back. So here's a 90 and here's an 85. So these are my grades for an absence of 0. Well, notice if I try to draw a line or connect these dots, I'm going to have a straight vertical line with these 3 numbers. And then with 1 absence, I have a grade of an 80. Well, which one of these do I connect to this 80? I don't know. So that's why we don't connect these dots, okay? They're not corresponding to each other at this point. At 2 absences, we had a 75 and we had an 80. Again, do I go over and down or do I go down and up? So again, we don't try to connect these these dots. At 3 absences, I had a 78 and a 70. At 4 absences, we had a 60 and a 68. At 5 absences, we had a 70, a 55, and a 50. So this is what a scatter plot is going to look like. And again, you do not want to try to connect the dots because, again, you don't know what order those dots are going to come in. Okay? Now, we can determine if there's a trend or relationship, or attempt to determine if there's a trend or relationship with the scatter plots. If you'll notice, overall, not necessarily, but the more absences somebody has, if I drew a line, the more absences someone has, the lower their test grade is. This line right here is what we consider a best fit line, or the trend line. And it's the one that's going to best fit all of the data as close as possible. Now, the graph can illustrate a positive trend, negative trend, which the one above definitely is corresponding to a negative trend. Think about back from your college algebra or your algebra, negative slope, negative trends. Something that would have a positive trend would be a scatter plot that kind of looked something like this. You could draw a line here. Now, does that mean that every dot is going to be along that line? Absolutely not. Just like our absences, not every dot's along that best fit line there either. So this would be a positive trend. And then a no trend, we would have something that looked kind of like this. There's nothing, no pattern whatsoever. Okay? We use the trend line if we can make one. Like if I drew a line here, or the trend line that I drew up here. We use that trend line to make predictions. Again, if a trend line can be found. Not all the time in scatter plots can a trend line be found though. Okay?